All right, so you want to deep dive into Concord Biotech's Q2 performance.
Right.
And we've got, well, we've got a lot to work with here. Press releases, we've got financial statements, even like a really slick investor presentation. So
Yeah.
let's try to figure out, is this recent success they've been having, is it all just hype or is it the real deal?
Yeah, well, I think what really jumps out right away is their 18% year-on-year revenue growth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they hit 310.2 crores.
Okay.
And profits are looking up too. So we're looking at a 15% EBITDA growth and a very healthy 18% rise in PAT. But here's the thing. This isn't just like, them riding some sort of industry wave.
Right.
Concord's actually exceeding the typical kind of biotech growth trends.
Now you've got me intrigued, but revenue, that's kind of a broad stroke, right?
Right.
Like, what exactly is driving these gains?
Well, if you take a peek under the hood, you'll see their formulation segment just exploded.
Oh, wow.
125% growth.
Seriously?
Yeah. Compare that to their API business, which, saw a more modest 1% uptick. So
Yeah.
clearly something interesting is happening there.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Back up a second. For those of us who aren't chemists, what's the difference between this formulation and API stuff?
Think of it like this. You want to build a house, right? The API is like the lumber, the bricks, the concrete, the raw materials.
Right.
Formulations are the finished rooms, ready to move in, complete with the paint, the fixtures, all of that.
Oh, okay, I see.
So Concord Biotech does both. They make the building blocks and they assemble the final product.
Oh, okay, so they're not just selling bricks, they're selling like a move-in ready house.
Exactly.
That's pretty smart.
And that gives them an edge.
Yeah.
They get to control more of the process.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, so they're building the houses, they're selling the houses, but where are they selling these houses? Are they sticking to one neighborhood? Are they branching out? Like, how does that look?
They're definitely expanding their reach. Both domestic and export revenues are showing healthy growth, which is good.
That's good.
And here's something else that's interesting. They're actively working to reduce their reliance on any single client. That declining reliance on their top 10 customers is a smart way to spread risk, and it kind of indicates a healthy diversification strategy.
So they're building more houses, selling them in more places, and not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
But who is the mastermind behind all of this?
Wow.
What's the CEO saying about their game plan?
Yeah. So Ankrave, the CEO, he's pretty pumped about their formulation success. And he's not shying away from hinting at, future moves.
Okay.
So in the investor presentation, he talks about, deepening their relationships with existing API customers, but at the same time, expanding the customer base.
Right.
Plus, doubling down on formulation growth in both domestic and, crucially, emerging markets.
Ooh, emerging markets. Okay, so now that's a whole new territory, right? And I'm guessing like higher risk, but higher reward.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But what else is he kind of hinting at? Anything particularly juicy stand out?
Oh, yeah, there's more. He mentions an upcoming injectable facility.
Ooh, interesting.
Now, injectables are a whole different beast altogether, right?
I guess so.
Higher regulatory hurdles, you've got more complex manufacturing.
Yeah.
So this signals a pretty bold move into a higher stakes, potentially higher profit segment of the pharma market.
Intriguing. So they're not content with just building the houses. Now they're going for skyscrapers.
Exactly.
That's ambitious.
Sure is ambitious for sure.
But he also mentioned something about like CDMO opportunities. I don't know what that is. What's that all about?
Yes, the CDMO world. It stands for Contract Development and Manufacturing Organization.
Oh, okay.
So basically, it's like becoming the expert contractor that other companies hire to build their specialized projects. So they're leveraging Concord's existing expertise and infrastructure.
Right.
Makes it a potentially lucrative way to diversify their income.
So they're not just building their own houses. They're becoming the go-to construction firm for other people's pharmaceutical projects.
Exactly.
Got it. But Vade also mentioned some specific goals, right? Like launching a bunch of new products in the next few years.
Right. He's aiming to roll out 8-10 new products over the next 3-4 years.
Right.
Specifically targeting oncology, anti-infectives, and antifungals.
Okay, and those aren't just like random choices, I'm guessing.
No, not at all. These are high growth, high demand segments of the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
So it suggests a strategic focus on areas with massive market potential.
Okay, so they're building houses, they're building skyscrapers, they're becoming a construction giant, and they're aiming for the most in-demand markets.
Yeah.
It sounds like ambition certainly isn't lacking here.
No, they're not lacking ambition.
But do their financials actually back up these grand plans?
So let's dive into those numbers. On the surface, their gross profit margins, they look healthy, right?
Yeah.
They clock in at 75.4% for Q2 of FY25. But there's a twist. It's actually down 4.4 percentage points compared to the previous year.
Oh.
So that raises an important question about what's driving that shift.
Ooh, a potential crack in the facade. We can't just gloss over that. We've got to dig into these shifting margins and see if we can uncover what's really going on. Buckle up. Things are about to get interesting. Okay, so we're back, and it's time to face the music on these shrinking profit margins. I mean, 75.4% still sounds pretty darn good to me,
Yeah.
but I'm no finance whiz.
Right.
So help me understand this. Should we be worried about this dip?
Yeah, that's where things get a little interesting. A drop in gross profit margin isn't always a bad thing.
Okay.
It really depends on the why.
Right.
Concord's expansion into formulations, remember those move-in ready houses?
Yeah.
That we talked about, that definitely plays a role.
Okay, so if they're making more houses, they need more building materials,
Right.
meaning higher costs, which could then eat into those margins.
Exactly. And if we look at their financial statements, there's a significant jump in the cost of materials consumed line item.
Oh, wow.
It's gone from 4,200.08 lakhs in Q2 of last year to a whopping 6,800.40 lakhs this quarter.
Wow, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
So part of this margin squeeze is just them, like, scaling up their operations,
Right.
which makes sense.
Right.
But could there be other forces at play here?
Right.
What about external factors like, say, industry-wide price increases for raw materials?
Yeah.
Could that be a factor?
That's a great point, and it's definitely possible. We need to look at industry trends and compare Concord's performance to its competitors to see if they're experiencing similar margin pressures.
Okay, so we've got internal factors, their own growth strategy.
Right.
We've got potential external factors like rising raw material costs.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that could be kind of squeezing these margins a little bit?
Well, pricing pressure is another possibility. As Concord pushes into those emerging markets, they might be facing more price-sensitive customers,
Right.
which might lead them to lower prices to gain market share.
Right.
It's a balancing act.
Mm.
Expansion versus maintaining profitability.
Yeah. And let's not forget about those R&D investments.
Oh, right.
They're pouring money into developing new products
Yeah.
and breaking into that injectable market,
Yeah.
which can definitely impact margins in the short term.
For sure. Investing in innovation, it's a long game.
Yeah.
It might squeeze margins now,
Yeah.
but it's crucial for staying competitive and developing those high-value products that will drive future growth.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like they're planting seeds today
Yeah.
for a bigger harvest tomorrow.
Exactly.
Speaking of long-term thinking, what about their commitment to sustainability?
Okay.
We touched on that a little bit earlier, but how do those efforts kind of factor into all of this?
Well, sustainability is no longer just a nice to have.
Right.
It's increasingly becoming a core business consideration,
Yeah.
influencing, investor decisions and consumer preferences.
Right. They've got that bronze medal from Acquavitas, and they've got those ISO certifications, which all sound very impressive, but I'll admit, I don't know much about these things. Like,
Yeah.
what do those actually mean in practical terms?
Well, they're good indicators that Concord is at least taking sustainability seriously.
Okay.
But the real test is in the details. Are they actively reducing their carbon footprint? Are they implementing energy efficient technologies? How are they managing waste and water usage?
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that separate genuine commitment from just greenwashing.
So it's not just about having the right labels. It's about actually walking the walk.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, the materials that we have don't really go that deep into those specifics. It would be great to see some concrete examples of their sustainability initiatives and their impact.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something you could investigate further, maybe by looking into their sustainability reports or reaching out to them directly.
Yeah.
A company that's genuinely committed to sustainability, they'll be eager to share those details.
That's a good point. And it's a good reminder that our deep dive is just a starting point
Right.
for your own exploration.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap up this financial deep dive,
Mhm.
let's talk about cash flow. We know it's strong, but how are they actually using those funds?
So their cash flow statement is actually quite revealing. Um, a big chunk is going towards capital expenditures.
Right.
So investments in, property, plant, and equipment.
Right.
um, which makes sense considering their ambitious growth plans, especially that upcoming injectable facility.
Yeah.
They're putting their money where their mouth is.
So they're not just talking the talk.
Right.
They're actually building the infrastructure to back it up.
Exactly.
But big investments like that usually mean taking on some debt, right?
You'd think so, but their balance sheet actually tells a different story.
Oh, interesting.
Surprisingly, their borrowings have actually decreased.
Really?
Yeah. They had 6.2 crores in borrowings in March of this year. And now, as of September, that number is down to 0.
Wow, that's impressive. So that means they're funding this growth primarily through their own operations
Yeah.
and cash reserves. That's a sign of a very healthy and well-managed company.
Yeah, precisely. Their strong cash flow, coupled with their prudent financial management, it really lays a solid foundation for their ambitious growth plans.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've dissected those shrinking profit margins, dug into the kind of complexities of sustainability, and marveled at their responsible financial management.
Right.
Are we ready to shift gears a little bit and look
Yeah.
at the bigger picture?
Absolutely. Let's connect all of these financial insights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the wider biopharmaceutical landscape. We'll analyze their growth prospects, assess their competitive position, and explore those potential risks and opportunities that lie ahead. Stay with us.
Okay, so we've scrutinized the financials, we peeked behind the sustainability curtain, and now it's time for the million-dollar question. What's the long-term outlook for Concord Biotech? I mean, are they poised for global domination, or are we overlooking some critical red flags here?
Well, to really understand their future, we need to zoom out and look at the big picture. The biopharmaceutical industry, it's like a high-stakes race. Enormous potential for growth, but also fierce competition and constant innovation.
Yeah.
So where does Concord actually fit into all of this?
Right. Are they like a scrappy startup trying to kind of break in, or are they already a major player? We've seen they've got some ambitious plans, but ambition alone doesn't guarantee success.
Yeah, they're definitely more than just a startup at this point. They've got over 2 decades of experience,
Okay.
a global reach with customers in over 70 countries,
Yeah. Wow.
and a proven track record of developing those niche, complex molecules that a lot of companies struggle with.
Okay, so experience, reach, specialization, those are all good starting points. But how do they actually stack up against the big names in biopharma? Like what really sets them apart?
I think one key differentiator is their mastery of fermentation-based API manufacturing.
Okay.
This isn't your average chemistry set.
Yeah.
It's a complex process with high barriers to entry.
Right.
And Concord has built one of the largest fermentation capacities globally.
Really?
Yeah, so that gives them a serious edge in that arena.
So they really kind of carved out a niche for themselves. Like they've become the masters of a particular craft.
Exactly.
Okay. Smart move. But remember that whole injectable facility they're building?
Right.
That seems like a pretty risky leap into a whole new world.
Yeah, injectables are a whole different ballgame.
Think higher regulatory hurdles, more complex manufacturing processes, and a whole new set of competitors. It's a bold move, no doubt.
Yeah.
But one with potentially huge rewards.
Right.
The injectable market is a high growth segment.
Okay.
And if Concord can successfully navigate those complexities, it could be a major win for them.
It's like they've mastered building houses,
Yeah.
and now they're taking on like skyscraper construction.
Exactly.
High risk, but potentially very high reward.
Yeah.
But even with all of their expertise and all this ambition, there have to be some potential roadblocks, right?
Right.
What could potentially trip them up?
I think one word, regulation.
Right.
Pharmaceutical industry is heavily regulated.
Yeah.
And any changes can significantly impact a company's operations and profitability.
Right.
Concord has a pretty good track record with regulatory compliance,
Okay.
but it's a constant tightrope walk.
Yeah, navigating those regulatory hurdles is no easy feat. What about competition? I mean, we've talked about their strengths, but surely they're not alone in targeting these high growth markets, right?
Yeah, competition is fierce in biopharma.
Yeah.
Established giants and hungry newcomers alike are all vying for market share.
Right.
So Concord needs to stay agile.
Yeah.
They need to continuously innovate and keep finding ways to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
Falling behind in the innovation game, that could be their downfall.
It's like a never-ending race to stay ahead.
It is.
And let's not forget about like the unpredictable nature of the global economy, right?
Yeah.
Economic downturns, they can hit even essential industries like pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely. A global recession could definitely impact demand, even for life-saving medications. It's a factor they can't really control.
Right.
But they need to be prepared to weather those storms.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the risks all laid out, but let's end on a more positive note here.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest opportunities that Concord is well positioned to capitalize on?
Well, their focus on those high-growth areas you mentioned, oncology, anti-infectives, antifungals.
Right.
That's a smart move. These markets have huge potential.
Yeah.
And Concord's expertise in fermentation-based APIs, that gives them a leg up in developing those complex treatments.
And don't forget about that whole CDMO strategy.
Right.
Becoming the go-to contractor for other pharma companies. I mean, that could be a real game changer for them.
Yeah, exactly. The CDMO market is booming right now.
Yeah.
And Concord's expertise and existing infrastructure, that makes them a really strong contender. It's a savvy way to diversify their revenue and leverage their existing capabilities.
So if we had to sum it all up for our listeners here, what's the final verdict on Concord Biotech? Thumbs up, thumbs down, or somewhere in between?
Well, we're not in the business of giving investment advice.
Of course.
But what we've uncovered here is a company with a solid foundation, ambitious plans, and a keen eye on the future.
Yeah.
They're operating in a high growth industry, which comes with inherent risks, but also enormous potential.
Well said.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the decision to invest, that's a personal one. But hopefully, we've given our listeners the information and the insights to at least make an informed decision.
Right.
And that's really the heart of what the deep dive is all about.
Exactly. We've gone beyond just reporting the numbers. We've explored the why behind those numbers.
Right.
We examined their strategy. We analyzed their competitive landscape, and we even pondered the bigger trends that are shaping the biopharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. We dissected financial statements, we delved into sustainability claims, we even learned about the intricacies of fermentation-based API manufacturing.
We did.
So now here's a final thought for our listeners to kind of chew on. Could Concord Biotech, with their ambition and all of their strategic moves, could they actually become a true global leader in this very dynamic industry? I guess the answer might lie in your own continued exploration.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it for this deep dive, folks. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on our next adventure into the world of fascinating knowledge.